It's movie time with John DeSando and his friends online. So everything is gonna be just fine. From the top down to the bottom. He's gonna let you know if you should stay home or if you should go. Might even yell if it's a spectacle. From San Francisco to Long Island. 'Cause nothing's better than a motion video.
It's Movie Time. It's produced and hosted by John DeSando. Listen to broadcast shows Fridays at 4:01 and 8:01 p.m. Read reviews and listen to shows online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando,
And I'm K G Kline.
and this is It's Movie Time. And it's time for me to confess that I was once a Catholic boy who believed everything that the nuns and the priests told me. I never questioned one thing, which is why I'm now at the United Church of Christ. Because actually somebody listens to me and talks issues. and so therefore the idea of believing is very important to me, and because it changed my life. Now, so here you and I have asked a person I know can tackle this, a film called Heretic.
Heretic. This is one of the big fall releases, getting a lot of attention. And it's getting a lot of good reviews. Oh, this is a wonderful film. It is a wonderful film, but it is not, to me, as good as it could have been. But I still really, really like it.
And you know, I liked hearing you saying that because I had the same feeling. I'm thrilled by two things. First of all, anybody trying to tackle the idea of belief, the existence of God, and the role of religions in our lives. Anytime you're doing that, I'm rapt attention. But anytime I can watch for an hour and a half, Hugh Grant.
Hugh Grant, proving that playing an Oompa Loompa did not destroy his career as it could have with many other people.
You wouldn't believe, I mean, if you look at his filmography, the number of films he's done.
Yes. And this, folks, this is one of his better films.
I believe his best.
This movie rises above the shortcomings of the script through the acting, through the cinematography. The acting is top notch, and you really get invested in these characters very quickly. You want to see what's going on with them. You want to see how this plays out. And you also are enthralled with the really interesting filming of this movie. This is the cinematographer is noteworthy, and we're talking about Heretic here. The cinematographer is a South Korean fellow who also did Old Boy and did most of the cinematography for that actor's wonderful films. So very, very good. I actually wish he had gone and pushed the envelope just a little bit more than he did.
Well, yeah.
Everything about this movie is great,
Well,
but it could have been greater.
One of the things that's great about it is that it's a horror film with a sense of humor.
Yes.
And that's because Hugh Grant plays it that way. He plays it like a nerdy professor who is confronting these two, and how wonderful a topic, two Mormon young ladies.
He lures them in by saying, putting his name on a list of people who's interested in hearing more about the Church of Jesus Christ and the Latter-day Saints. And so, of course, these two young women, Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton, who are both about 1920.
That's right.
And full of enthusiasm for the church, even though we have this wonderful little scene at the opening of the movie where they're sitting and talking about sex.
And you know what I thought about? Pulp Fiction.
Yes.
Where they're talking about, completely unrelated to what you thought.
Yeah. And it also establishes these characters as maybe not being completely 100% invested.
Good point, yes.
And we've learned later in the movie that they're not nearly invested as we think.
How many times have you wanted to confront these believers, particularly when they're wearing black hats and black suits, and you're saying, please tell me, what do you really believe, or what have you been told to believe? Yeah. In other words, I really wanted to have an interchange with them, but I never felt I could.
Yeah. But this is not the Book of Mormon. This is not that comedy. This is more of a being lured into a spider's nest.
Yes.
And they go to this house, and this Hugh Grant greets them, and oh yes, I do want to learn more. Oh yes, and he plays a very vulnerable character for them at first, and then as the evening progresses, he becomes asking them more and more questions, and his questions are more challenging to their faith. He's not there to learn from them. It quickly turns tides. He's now challenging them to defend their faith. And the first two acts of this movie, I think, are very, very well done. and it doesn't really fall apart for me until the third act.
And the third act is a sop to the people who go there for horror tropes.
Yeah. The third act is when the film really becomes a horror movie.
Right, and it's a waste of time,
Mhm.
because they have really something, as you were implying, really something going in that exchange between the two of them. And when you find out that I think it's Sister
Sister Paxton is the blonde.
Okay.
Sister Barnes is the dark
Sister
hair.
Barnes, that Sister Barnes is something more than she appears.
Yes, she is. There's a lot more to say. First of all, Sister Barnes is the very smart one. And she's the one who figures out fairly quickly that they're in trouble. And she is the one who finally says, okay, it's time to take the gloves off. It's time to stop being nice. And she starts challenging and intellectualizing back at him. And there's a very, very interesting change in his character as he slowly cracks. He's starting to feel less in control when Sister Barnes is talking. So Sister Barnes becomes a threatening character to him.
Yeah,
And both of these sisters are wonderfully performed, wonderfully acted.
a couple of the key issues. The first one, and the one that dominates the film to the very end, is what's the one true religion?
Yeah.
And I really like the way they solve this.
Yes.
And we're not going to reveal it, but I think it fits perfectly.
This is a question that Hugh Grant keeps asking,
Yes.
Mr. Reed keeps asking,
Yes.
what is the one true religion? And it does get answered at the end. Hang in there for the end, it does get answered.
And one of the things that the film really does is that in his character and in his interaction with them, it shows the weaknesses of belief, because what he's doing is challenging their belief. One that I think everybody will appreciate is his wife in the kitchen baking pie.
Yes.
And what a wonderful, simple metaphor.
And the smell of the pie
Yes.
coming out. And then he questions, but how, once you started seeing evidence, proof, that this was not true,
It's great.
how long did you continue to believe in this?
Yes.
And this is where, for me, the movie started slipping from a real A-list movie to more of a B, because this movie could have been dangerous. This movie could have actually done some theological exploration that, as Harlan Ellison would have said, would have made it a dangerous vision, because it could have challenged our theology, it could have challenged our religious beliefs, but it pulls its punches. It doesn't want to go that far. It doesn't want to make us start questioning our own religion
Right.
as much as it wants to just be a horror film. So the dialogue about what religion really never reaches much beyond a Theology 101 college course. It's
Yeah.
very, very minimal. You know, the one Sister Barnes asks, you know, he's talking about comparisons of the different Christ figures, and he's pulling out Osiris, and he's pulling out various ones from the ages, and saying, well, these all had December 25th birthdays, so how is that possible? Well, in reality, Barnes comes up right and says, well, that one has a bird's head and has nothing to, and that's absolutely true. Most of what he's saying is easily debunked.
But what will make you think is his argument about the iterative nature of religions.
Mm-hmm.
Is that as many as you get, they seem to be repetitions of each other.
Well, they build on
Yeah.
one another, which
Yeah.
is, and we might get into that in the podcast
Yeah,
a little
yeah,
bit, talking
yeah.
about how this movie fails in its theological discussion.
Yes.
But very easily, he could have taken, the writers could have taken this to the next level and actually started challenging real religious beliefs that are based on false premises. We won't go too far, but the idea of December 25th being Christ's birthday actually came from Mithras, when the Christians went into Europe. Before that, there was no birthday for Christ. You won't find December 25th mentioned anywhere in the Bible. But they don't want to go that challenging. They want to keep this more at an entry level.
And I do believe it was serious up at least 2/3 of the film. And therefore, setting it off against, say, Da Vinci Code,
Mhm.
which is really just fun.
Yeah.
You know, poking fun at the Catholic Church and its beliefs. And a lot of that is grounded in the fact that why do we believe what everybody tells us? You know, why don't we challenge it? Well, my church, the Catholic Church, never fostered that attitude. It always fostered you will believe what I tell you to believe. And so that's what I find his argument so compelling.
Whereas, and he touches upon Judaism.
Yeah, right.
And there's a very interesting
I love
comment when he says, if Judaism was the first true origin religion of Christianity, Muslim, everything, how come only 1.5% of the world's population believe in Judaism? And they come back with, well, the Holocaust killed off so many Jews, and Jews have been persecuted. No, again, they're sidestepping the realities. Judaism does not have the thing that many people are looking for, which is an afterlife. Everybody wants to believe that they have a religion that says when they die, they're going to get to see mom and dad and Spot the dog, and they're all going to be waiting for them at the Rainbow Bridge, and everything's going to be wonderful forever and ever and ever. Judaism does not have an afterlife.
And what I like about Judaism is, first of all, there's no Christ, so that makes it a bit different.
Well, there is. We understand that Christ probably existed.
Oh yes,
and he was a Jew.
For them,
and he was a Jew.
As a son of God, no, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But and the second one about Judaism is characteristic of them, and this is characteristic of you because you're Jewish, is questioning. The Jews just live to question.
Questioning and also following Torah, which is really a book of laws. Laws on how to live in a tight society and all get along together. So much of Judaism is really about legal and about how to learn to live with each other.
Yes.
But why Judaism fails, and the movie doesn't get into this, why Judaism fails is because it gets low ratings for not having the afterlife that so many people are seeking. So again, the reason why I give this movie a solid B instead of an A is, despite the great acting, is because it pulls its punches and it never really rises above an entry-level horror film, except for the writing and the directing and the cinematography. But it could have been a very dangerous, challenging movie, and I fault it for not going a little further.
And let's close this segment by commenting, I believe, these two writer-directors, also did A Quiet Place.
Yes, they did A Quiet Place.
But don't you catch the irony of that? There's no talking in A Quiet Place. And this movie is all talking.
This movie is all talking. And the talking is interesting. I think everybody go see this movie if you're interested. If you like horror films, it's a top-notch horror film. It's well worth seeing for Hugh Grant, one of his best performances in years. But at the end of the day, could it have been better? Yeah, it could have been a little bit more challenging.
It is a horror film for intellectuals.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It's movie time with DeSando and his friends online. So everything is gonna be just